Hey everyone, Mike Burke here with InsideRealEstatePhotography.com, and in this video we're going to take a look at a method of real estate photography that utilizes a speed light on top of the camera as part of its process. Alright, so I don't know if you've seen this method used before, or maybe you use it yourself. If you do, definitely leave a comment down below and tell us all about it. But I've seen this done in Facebook groups, like real estate photography Facebook groups and stuff like that, where people will throw a speed light on top of their camera like you see here, and add a flash pop amongst their ambient frames, whether that be a single ambient frame or brackets. I've personally never used this method, so I thought we'd try this out and do a little experiment here. If you watch my channel, you know I believe in trying out all different methodologies and not just sticking to one and believing that it's the only way to do things. That's not how I do things here on this channel. Why? Because when you experiment and you try different things, that's how you learn and you grow. And I think it's important to spread your wings and broaden your horizons a little bit and try different things. All right, so off the bat, I'll say I don't have a ton of faith in this method, but we'll see what the results look like. Anytime I've heard of someone using an on-camera flash for real estate photography, it kind of makes me scratch my head. It is essentially just the flambient method. It is a flambient method, which is blending flash frames with ambient frames. But instead of being able to use an off-camera flash, which is traditional flambient, and being able to do flash pops all over the room or in adjacent rooms or whatever, you're relying on just one flash pop from a fixed position, which is from on top of the camera. So that kind of just limits it. It's just a simplified version of flambient. So you're not gonna get as high end of a result as you would with traditional flambient, but we'll see what we can get. So traditional flambient is one ambient frame mixed with one or multiple flash pops. I don't think one single ambient frame is really gonna do it here. I would make me a little nervous not having that extra information. So I think the way to go here really is to shoot brackets and then throw a flash pop in there to make the editing easier. And what I mean by that is having that one flash pop in the mix will help control the color cast and give you more accurate color, which is kind of the benefit of using a flash and doing the flambient method. I think really the thought behind this process is that it's more of like a compromise process. And what I mean by that is typically flambient takes longer to shoot than shooting just brackets or HDR, if you want to call it that, because you have to deal with the flash, figure out where you need to do flash pops. It's just a more lengthy process to shoot, so you're spending more time on site. Conversely, you're spending more time editing with the HDR or bracket shooting because you're dealing with color cast and all these things which are more time consuming to deal with, whereas flambient is a much faster editing process. So what I mean by the theory of this method being a compromise is that it's sort of a best of both worlds scenario, because you get the speed of HDR or bracket shooting because that's sort of how you're treating it. You're doing brackets first, firing them off, and just quickly turning the flash on and doing a flash pop. So you're not really adding that much time to your shooting, but you're getting that flash frame to help speed up your editing. So you're getting the speed of HDR shooting and also the speed of flambient editing, if that makes sense. All right, so now that I explained the thought process behind this method, let's set up a shot and see what kind of results we can get. Before we continue on with this video, I just want to share a quick word about our sponsor, PixelMob. Are you looking for a professional real estate photo editor to help lighten your workload? Are you having a hard time finding a good and reliable editor, or don't even know where to look for one? Or maybe you just personally struggle with editing and can't seem to achieve the professional end result that you've been looking for? If any of this sounds like you should definitely check out PixelMob. PixelMob helps take the guesswork out of finding a reputable editor and connects you with the right people to do the job. PixelMob is an awesome website that links you up with available editors capable of doing just about any sort of real estate photo editing you can imagine, including HDR blending, flambient, virtual staging, object removal, etc. The best part of all is that PixelMob vets all the editors prior to allowing them onto their platform to ensure that they can indeed deliver on what they say they can. I also really like that there's a peer review system where photographers can rate the editors from 1 to 5 stars, giving you further tools and helping you choose the best editor to work with for your particular job. The editor also does not get paid until you are satisfied with your order. If you've ever been in the search for an editor and tried a few out, then you know full well there's been such a sore need for something like PixelMob in our industry, and I really think a lot of us real estate photographers can benefit from this service. It's completely free to sign up, and if you use my link pixelmob.com/IREP, you will receive $5 in credit towards your first order, so there's no reason to at least not give it a try. You'll also find that link down in the description of this video. All right, so I have a kitchen shot set up here, sort of a 1-point perspective looking at the back wall of this kitchen where the sink is and everything. So first I'm gonna take bracketed shots, 5 brackets, 2 stops apart. That's what I typically do for brackets, so I'm just gonna do that. You could probably do 3 even, especially with the flash shot. You could definitely get away with 3 for most cases probably. But I'm also gonna try a single frame ambient, just so we can kind of compare the two and see if we can get enough information out of the single frame. I think we probably could, but being that we're only using 1 flash shot, we're gonna have to rely on the ambient frames a lot heavier than you would with traditional flambient, because you're not illuminating, say, like an adjacent room, like the room over there or whatever. So that's all gonna be pretty much strictly ambient because the flash is not gonna reach over there. So, you know, it's more heavy reliant on the ambient frames. All right, so here you can see the back of my screen and the shot that I'm taking here. So now I'm gonna fire off the brackets. All right, so next, and this is important to note to make this process a speedy process, is that I have my camera set on aperture priority. That's what I use for my brackets, but I programmed in one of my custom slots a single frame shot so we can use that for our flash pop. So after I shoot my brackets, all I have to do is quickly turn my dial to custom slot 3, and now it's all set to shoot a single frame flash pop, and then I can just swing it back to aperture priority and it's ready to go on my brackets. So I can just switch back and forth between aperture priority and custom slot 3 to do this, which makes the whole thing really fast. I'm not fussing with settings. Again, it's getting that speed of the HDR shooting with the benefit of the flash pop in there. So that's really the, you know, sort of theory behind this method. So if you're taking a long time switching settings and everything, then you might as well just shoot regular flambient because that'll be better in the long run anyway. But if you're looking for speed and you're looking for the best of both worlds here, which is kind of what we're going for, definitely program that custom slot so you can quickly switch back between the two. All right, so now here looking at the back of my screen, before we turn the flash on, I just want to show you, these are the same settings I had for my brackets, which is f8. You definitely want the same aperture, so there's no depth of field differences. ISO is 400, this is the same. All right, so now what I want to do is just adjust my shutter speed really quick to where I would have my ambient frame at, which is, you know, around, it's gonna be around where 0 usually is on the meter here. But I take a look at the histogram here that I just turned on to, and you know, you usually want where you would shoot your ambient single frame, if you did, would be around here with, you know, the histogram kind of leaning towards the right. Usually is where you want it to be. So, you know, it's reading plus 0.3, plus 0.7. You know, don't pay just strict attention to that. You know, use your histogram too. And I'm actually gonna take a single frame here without the flash really quick as well, just because, like I said, we can try out with the single frame too, and a single frame ambient, see what kind of results we can get. So I'm just gonna quickly take this shot. Normally I would just fire the brackets and then shoot the, you know, flash shot, like I was saying. I think that's really the way to go. We're just doing this for experiment's sake. So I just took 1 ambient frame there. So you would find this exposure first with the shutter speed, which will only take a second. Just look at your meter and your histogram. Just get it to 0 and then see if you need to push it a little bit further, if you need to, you know, get the histogram to the right a little bit more. Usually where I find that's a sweet spot. So, and then what we want to do is increase the shutter speed now by 2 stops. So that's about 6 clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You know, that's about right. So, you know, now we're reading a little underexposed. And the reason for that is we want to subdue the ambient light in the room and use our flash to really be the main light source. We want to overpower the ambient light in the room. So that's really the purpose of this. So now that we have this exposure set, I'm going to turn the flash on. And again, just to review that really quickly, I think it started at 1/50th. So when we first turned it to custom slot 3, this is what we had, which is, you know, way underexposed. So quickly, I just turn it up to around 0. Okay, do I need to push the histogram a little bit more? Maybe a little bit, about there. It's a little pushing to the right now more. So that's where I'll use as my baseline, and I'm gonna drop it 2 stops, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is 6 clicks. And now I'm ready to take my flash shot. So the process is that quick. I just wanted to show you really quick, just in case that got confusing. That's all you really have to do. And now we're ready to turn our flash on. All right, so I'm gonna turn the flash on. As you can see, the flash is in manual mode. I want to control the power manually. Usually I start around a half power. That seems to be a good starting point. And we can see if we need to up that or lower that. Usually it'd probably be going up, especially with the speed light. It's not as powerful as like an AUTOHDR or one of the more powerful strobes. And the flash head is pointing straight up towards the ceiling, which is how we want it for this sort of thing, because if you angle it, you'll start getting crazy shadows and stuff like that. So the best thing to do in general is to point it straight up. So now we're ready to take our flash pop really quick. All right, so there you can see our flash image. Maybe it needs a tad bit more power, so I might up the power a little bit. All right, so this is at half power plus 0.7. I'm just gonna fire this off real quick. All right, so I think that power is a little bit better. And what we're looking for here is just overpowering the ambient light in the room. So if we review this compared to the ambient frame we just took, you can see the difference that it's really overpowering every bit of ambient light in the room if we compare these two. So, and you will notice this too, that the white balance is a little off. It's sort of orangey looking, which is sort of counterintuitive to what we want the flash to do, but we'll just have to adjust the white balance on this flash frame first before we blend it with our ambient frame, which is just a quick adjustment. It is a little annoying. And this is a known problem with some of these Godox flashes. By the way, I'm using a V862 Godox flash. And the way to get around this, like for my AD200, I use a single pin trigger, which just uses a firing signal instead of any other information that the camera gives the flash. It's just a known issue with these. Unfortunately, I don't have the ability to shoot single pin with this at the moment, but if you can get a single pin adapter or something like that to use with this, that will help eliminate that and just have a cleaner flash image right out of the camera. So one other thing you may want to consider too is one of the benefits of Flambient is being able to blast these windows with the flash and overexpose around the windows, and then use darken mode to pull in the window view from outside instead of manually masking it in, which you have to do with bracket editing or HDR editing, which is a very time consuming process. So yes, this is an extra shot, it's taking extra time. So now are we encroaching in on regular Flambient? Should we just do that? And no, I think this is still faster, because you could take your regular flash shot with the flash pointing straight up like it is right now, like this, really quick. So that shot's done, and then all you do, tilt the flash down really quick, fire that shot off. And there you can see with that shot up on the screen now that we were able to blast that window and really overexpose around it. Yes, there's a little bit of a problem. There's a little bit of a glare in the window that we'll have to fix. So yeah, I think it's worth it. Again, you just saw how fast that was. Take the shot, put it down, take the shot. So just repositioning it took 1 second. So, not taking that much extra time. So I think it really does still fit into this without, being too much of an add-on as far as time goes. All right, so now that we captured our shots, let's take them back to the computer and see what kind of results we can get out of them. All right, guys, so here we are in Lightroom. Let's just take a look at what we shot here. So as you'll see down here, the first 5 are brackets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are just ambient brackets that I shot. And then we have our single ambient frame here, which will probably do fine actually for this. We can easily just use this, but I just like to have the brackets to fall back on, because say your flash shot fails or whatever, at least you have brackets to fall back on. You can just edit those into a nice looking image. So I still recommend shooting the brackets just to have to fall back on. I just think it's a good idea, and it doesn't take much longer to shoot. So, and then here we have our flash shot. Yes, I'm in the reflection, but it doesn't really matter because we're going to do something about the windows anyway. And then we have this window blast shot that we did at the end to overexpose the windows. So let's take these into Photoshop and see what we can do with it real quick. So I'm just going to select all these, control right click on them, and go to edit in, open as layers in Photoshop. All right, so now as you can see here, we have all the layers loaded here in Photoshop. So the first thing I want to do is just want to select all these, and I want to go to edit and then auto align layers, and auto is good. I'm just gonna hit okay. I'm just gonna make sure they're in line. I know I actually jiggled the camera at one point, so yeah, as you can see, it's a little off, but that will line everything up. Make sure when you're blending things are lined up and correct. So that's the first thing. And now what I want to do is, these first 5 layers are the brackets. I just want to blend these together. I'm going to turn these off for now because I just want to concentrate on these 5 brackets and blend these together into one ambient frame. This is our sort of middle exposure here. I'm going to bring up this brighter exposure. I'm just going to option click on the layer mask button here, which I guess is like alt clicking on a PC, and that will add a black layer mask here. So quickly, I'm just going to take my brush tool, which you can hit B, it's right here, but you can hit B for that. And I want a super soft brush, so hardness 0, and then, you know, size, whatever, that doesn't matter. And then I want my flow to be low, like 5% is good. And if you use your bracket keys, you can control the size. So I'm just gonna make it bigger here. And I just wanna, you know, start going over some of these areas and brighten up areas that are a little too dark. And see over here, ceiling. Honestly, that's almost probably good enough. We don't really need those other brackets, but like I said, I always like to have them to fall back on. Say things didn't work out, say you wanted a window pull and the flash didn't work for that, and you know, you could use one of like these darker brackets for that. So there's just a lot of, you know, it's always good to have that information at your disposal. That blend right there is totally good for our uses. So I mean, I don't really need to utilize any of these other brackets. So I'm just going to select these 2 top ones that we just blended together, and I'm just gonna hit Command E, or you can control click on this and go to merge layers or merge layers, yeah. And then, you know, you'll have 1 layer there. So we don't really need these other ones. I'm gonna keep them around, but I'm just gonna turn these off for now. And I'm gonna select these and just drag them all the way, oops, to the bottom. So I'm just gonna select these 3, just drag them down so we know they're here if we need them for some reason. So this is what we'll be using as our ambient frame. Let's see how it compares to the actual single ambient frame here, which is right underneath here. So this is the single ambient shot that we took, and this is the one we just blended. So, I mean, fairly similar. We're gonna be putting the ambient frame into luminosity mode here anyway, so that's gonna kind of not use the color information from the ambient frame. It's just gonna use light values, basically, luminosity values. So, so yeah, now let's, take our flash frame up here to the top and turn this on. So as I mentioned, there's obviously white balance issues here. So what we're gonna do is here, if you go to Shift Command A, or you go to Filter and you go to Camera Raw Filter right here, this brings up basically like Lightroom controls within Photoshop. So I just want to, I'm gonna bring the color temp down on this. I'm just gonna try to take the warmth out of it, because it shouldn't be there. Just correcting the white balance here. Somewhere around there. I might even bring the exposure up a little bit and the shadows maybe up a tad. So you can see just like how the flash overpowered all the ambient light in the room, and you know, you can see the cabinet color now is like, really, this is pretty much accurate color here. So that's the advantage of the flash here, is that, you know, if we say okay here, and now if I turn this off, you can see now with the ambient, or either of these ambients, like, you know, there's bluish tones in the cabinets here. There's like, you know, all the, you know, from outside, you know, blue light coming in from outside or whatever. There's just, you know, color casts from all over. These lights are making color casts up here, you know, making a little orange, whatever. It's just, you know, color casting all around. So that's what we want this flash really for. I mean, obviously there's the lights hitting it up here, but the cabinets are all pretty much consistent color here and everything. So that's kind of the beauty of that. So I'm going to duplicate this layer here, just because then we could, you know, blend it with each of these layers to see. I mean, we already know that either of those ambient layers will work, whether it's brackets or there's single ambient, but you know, for the sake of this video, I'm gonna bring this up here. This is our bracketed blend that we just did, and I'm gonna blend it now with this flash layer underneath. So again, I'm gonna put this in luminosity mode. Just here. So again, that's taking luminosity values and just sort of ignoring more of the color information, taking the color information from this layer underneath, which is a flash layer. So it's, you know, correcting the color there. So let me undo that. So if I undo that, you see that's in normal mode. That's luminosity mode. Again, normal mode. luminosity mode, you can see the color of the cabinets changing there, and you know, actually improving more or less. So now again, with this ambient layer, all I want to do is come back down here and hit Option, click on this layer mask button again to add a black layer mask here. And again, with my brush, we want white as your foreground color, by the way. And now we can brush ambient in where we need it, especially like any areas that look flashy. And of course, like I said, we're gonna have to rely more on the ambient layer here, because, you know, if I was doing traditional flambient, like I might have done a flash pop over here. You see it's darker over here, but you know, we're gonna really just have to brush a lot of ambient in over here to brighten that up. So like I said earlier in this video, we're gonna have to rely heavier on the ambient layer for a lot of that stuff. So I'm just gonna brush the ambient in wherever I feel like it needs it. So definitely on here on this cabinet, it looks really flashy. Down the floor a little bit. And if you want to see the difference, you can just turn this ambient layer off. You can see that's the flash layer with nothing, and this is what we just blended in with the ambient. So it's looking pretty good. Maybe it's still a little flashy over here. Over here a little bit. So overall, that's pretty good. Now I'm just going to select these two again, since we blended these, and I'm just going to merge them. So you can do Command or Control E to merge them, and that's, you know, that's a nice blend right there. And the window is actually, I mean, other than the fact that you can see my reflection in there, which we'll have to deal with in a second, but the windows actually aren't even that bad. Like as a shot, I mean, this is, you know, pretty decent. There's still some like, you know, a little bit of color casting going on here that we can deal with in a minute, but you know, these ceilings could be whiter is what I mean, just things like that. But you know, overall as a blend though, exposure blend of the two, you know, this is pretty good. So I'm gonna turn that off. And then again, we have, this was our single ambient shot, and we can blend this in with this other flash shot. So again, same thing real quick, just to compare. So I just want to put this in luminosity mode first, and then I'm gonna Option click here and add a black layer mask. Now we can brush the ambient in here like we did with the last one real quick. Overall, I think that looks pretty natural. Doesn't look flashy anywhere to me. So I'm gonna select these two, hit Command E and merge them. So yeah, now this is our first blend with the brackets, and this was our blend with the single frame. Again, blend with the brackets. This is the blend with the single frame. Yeah, so I mean, they're pretty close. The bracketed one has like, you know, the shadows are sort of lifted a little bit because there's, you know, we brought that up brighter frame in to blend in, so just brought out that, but it's slightly on the yellow side too. Needs to be a little corrected, I think, white balance wise. Yeah, I mean, they're pretty darn close. Either one would suffice, obviously. I think I'm gonna just go with this single frame one. I think I like this a little bit better, just because I don't have to correct as much of that that white balance issue there. I mean, it's just slight, but not a big deal. But this one just came out a little cleaner to me, I think. So now let's take a look at this window shot, which is this one. So here, obviously we overexposed around the window, and this is what you can do with darken mode, and we can correct that. All right, so first we want to put this into darken mode, and then I want to add a layer mask again. So Option click on the layer mask and have a black layer mask here. And I want to put my flow up to 100%, and white is my foreground color. I'm just going to zoom in here, and we should be able to paint right over this now because it was all overexposed around it. So you can see it's just bringing in that view a little bit better. And you can still see my reflection because that was a bright spot there. So darken mode takes away the, you know, bright spots and overexposed areas. So we'll have to deal with that in a second. But if we go over here as well, to be able to paint this in, you can see it's bringing on, you know, the tree back there and the grass and all that. So that's all, that view is coming in better, whether or not you even need to do that. You don't really even need to do that on this, but I'm just, you know, showing you this for the sake of demonstration here. All right, so now that we did that, now I'm just gonna select these two, and again, Command E and merge these two. I'm not even gonna need this one actually, so I'm not gonna, just delete that. So let's try to get rid of my reflection here. I'm gonna try to use Photoshop's awesome new remove tool. So if you go here, remove tool, see if we can kind of get rid of me here. Perfect. This thing is amazing. If you haven't used this yet, it's just fantastic. It's like AI based and it just really knows what's up. So, but yeah, that took me out, so perfect. Let's do a little bit more here with this weird reflection. This weird reflection. Cool. This is a little weird. All right, so next what I want to do real quick is just deal with some of this color cast stuff going on here. So I just want to duplicate this layer real quick, and I'm going to take a lasso tool here, the Polygono lasso tool, and I'm just going to make a selection of the ceiling real quick. With the ceiling selected, I'm going to go to adjustments and hue and saturation. I'm just going to bring the saturation, you know, pretty way down, like somewhere around there. And you can bring the lightness up a little bit, just like brighten it up. And if I turn this off, you can see we just kind of made the ceiling white like it should be. But quickly, I'll just Command E that and merge it down. And then if I had a layer mask here, just a white layer mask, so just press the layer mask button, and again take my brush tool. But I want to put my flow back down to like 5%, 4 or 5%. But I want black as my foreground color now, because I'm using a white layer mask. So, you know, you can go over these lights a little bit and make them bring back some of the original color of this original layer here that we duplicated. So I can bring some of that yellow back in so that doesn't look so white. You know, you can try to make these look a little bit, you know, more natural, or how they should. That's good. And now I'm going to merge that down as well. So Command E. And again, one more time, I'm going to duplicate this layer. And again, I'm going to go to hue and saturation, and I'm just going to desaturate this all the way and merge this down, Command E. So now we have this desaturated layer here, and I'm going to make a layer mask, a hidden layer mask. So Option or Alt click on that to make a black layer mask. And again, with our brush tool here, we want white back now as our foreground color because we have a black layer mask. And again, flow 4%. I just want to go over, just slightly go over some of these areas that are like a little too yellow. It's just desaturating a little bit because we're just painting through to this, we're revealing this desaturated layer underneath. So it's just calming down some of those color casts there that are here. So it's helping that a little bit. Again, if I turn this off, you can just see how it's subtly eliminating that. I can just select all these as I don't need them anymore, just merge them down, and then I'm going to hit Command S and just save this. Now after save, if I go back to Lightroom, I have it here in my collection here, so now I can just do some finishing touches here. First of all, we obviously have this fringe from where we aligned it, so we gotta just crop that out. So I'm just gonna hold Shift and crop down on it a little bit, get rid of that fringe. So there we go, that's good with that. And now you can make any other last minute adjustments here. Might just raise the shadows a tad. Definitely add clarity. Something like that. Highlights, that's pretty good. Just slight tweaks to sweeten it up a little bit. So those are the changes we made so far. Just added some definition in here with the clarity. And then finally, what I want to do is just go down to detail and add some sharpening. So usually bring this up to around 60, 70, somewhere in this range here. And if you look at this little thumbnail, you can see, you know, when the details really, you can see where the details really start to sharpen up, like around 68 here. Like you can see the definition coming out, and that's really where you want it to be. So again, before, after, and that's our finished image here. So that looks pretty good. All right, so what do I think about this method? I mean, hey, this is a nice looking image here. I think it looks pretty great. It achieved its goals, I think, and then if you're looking for a best of both worlds scenario, like I was explaining in this video, I think, hey, this could be it, Of course, if you did this day in, day out, you might be a little more refined than what I just did in this demonstration. Of course, this is my first time trying it, so it was a little bit of trial and error for me. So, my demonstration might have not have been as streamlined as it could be. And of course, using a single pin adapter, like I said, could clean up your flash shot instead of having these color cast issues like I had with my flash shot. Anyway, there's ways to improve upon what I just showed you, but I think it's viable. It obviously achieved a good result. So the end result is what matters, and this is a good end result, I think. I think if I was to use a flash, I would just go the full-on flambient route. I just enjoy the freedom of having the flash off the camera and being able to go around the room and flash wherever I want, and I would just go full-in flambient. But if you're looking for a faster, best of both worlds scenario, this could be a solution for you. Anyway, what do you guys think of this? Please leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to hear them. And if any of you actually use this method day in, day out, I definitely want to hear from you, and let me know how you find it to be as, your main method. All right, guys, that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and found it helpful. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. I really appreciate your support. Also, check the links down in the description below. I got links to our sponsor, Pixel Mob. If you're looking for a real estate photo editor, they're a great resource. Also down there, I have links to a sky replacement pack that I've created, also editing practice packs that I've created, including Flambient Editing Practice Pack, which is sort of what we've been talking about in this video. I take you through a full shoot of Flambient images that I've shot, and you can edit them side by side with me as I explain the process image by image. So it's a great also tool there. And I also have one for HDR, so check those out. There's a lot of great links down there, gear recommendations, a lot of great stuff. So check that out. Thanks again so much for watching this video, and I'll see you again soon on the next one.